What's up? Wes Goldberg here from Locked On Heat. This is one more thing, a little bonus episode for you today. If you didn't check out our mailbag episode, go ahead and find that in your YouTube feed, your podcast feed. Make sure you are subscribed to both on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We really do appreciate. We answered questions about Trae Young, Russell Westbrook, Drew Holiday, a bunch of really interesting questions within the mailbag. But we got another question pertaining to Kevin Durant and whether or not he is going to pull his own version of what Jimmy Butler pulled in order to get out of Phoenix. Obviously, Jimmy Butler made things ugly to get out of Miami before the trade deadline. But let's back up here for a second before we get into all of that. The latest on Kevin Durant, Brian Windhorst of ESPN reporting earlier that the Suns are not getting what they want. The offers on the table are not up to the value that the Suns are looking for in order to trade Kevin Durant. Windhorst went so far as to say that the Suns are entertaining the idea of keeping Kevin Durant after all of this. Look, I don't think that that's going to happen. The toothpaste is out of the tube on Kevin Durant and Phoenix. They tried shopping him in February before the trade deadline. He was reportedly bothered by all of that, and they've made it very clear that they're going to trade him this summer. Kevin Durant's getting traded. We just don't know where. We still don't know where Kevin Durant is going to get traded. We know that on his list of preferred destinations, it's San Antonio, Houston, and Miami. And based on some of the reporting around it, San Antonio has backed off on Kevin Durant. They are clearly of the mindset of, we'll take Kevin Durant if you're giving him away, but we're not going to give up any of our great stuff for him. Houston sounds like they're in a similar camp. And Miami sounds like they're not going to be giving up their best stuff. So we talked a lot on this show, me, my co-host David Ramil, a lot about, hey, will the Heat include Kel'el Ware in a Kevin Durant deal? It doesn't look like they are going to cross that line, at least not at this stage. So where does that leave everybody? The Minnesota Timberwolves are one of those other teams reportedly very interested in acquiring Kevin Durant, but Kevin Durant has indicated that he doesn't want to sign there long term, and they're not going to make that trade unless they can get some sort of wink wink agreement that, hey, Durant would sign long term and you're not going to give up whatever it is that they end up giving up for nothing for just a year of Kevin Durant, because that's not something that they're interested in doing. Other teams, Toronto, the Clippers, like you hear all these other teams sort of pop up. It just doesn't seem like there's any traction on a deal. And that's because the Suns' asking price is way too high right now. Way too high. I don't know what they're asking for. There was a report a week ago that they're looking for basically a package comparable to what they sent out for Kevin Durant, which was multiple first-round picks, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, just a crazy amount of stuff. They're not going to get that. And I don't know when they're going to come to that realization, but they're not going to get that for Kevin Durant. So if they decide, if we don't get that for Kevin Durant, we're going to keep Kevin Durant, well, good luck. Then you're just dealing with a very unhappy Kevin Durant and a very bad roster that can't be unchanged, and a very expensive roster that can't be unchanged, because you're up in the second apron and you have no flexibility. And that's where, when I hear something like, oh, they could just not trade Kevin Durant. Okay. Does that mean they're trading Devin Booker? Because it's one thing to just say, hey, we're not getting what we want for Kevin Durant, we're not going to trade him. It's another thing to do that and then also be okay with one of the most expensive payrolls in the league for a team that missed the playoffs last year and has absolutely zero shot in the Western Conference. This whole thing has been a failure for the Phoenix Suns. They know it. It's why Kevin Durant is available. They were trying to shop Bradley Beal, but he has a no trade clause, so they can't move him. So if you're not trading Durant, then I don't know how you get out of the second apron unless you want to trade Bradley Beal, or rather Devin Booker, who's the face of your franchise, the guy that you're ostensibly trying to build around. And if you trade him, you might as well just blow the whole thing up and trade Kevin Durant anyway. So when I hear things that, like, the Suns might hold on to Kevin Durant, what that says to me is, no, they're not going to hold on to Kevin Durant. They're just trying to drum up offers at this point. That's all they're trying to do. So that takes me to this question from the Locked On Heat Insider community. You could sign up with the link in the show notes for access to ask us questions and all these other things. Andrew writes in, if what Windhorst report on the Suns not getting what they want for KD, do you see KD pulling a Jimmy Butler and making it ugly after they try to shop him, or does he just behave and stick it out until he becomes a free agent? I'm going to answer that, but first, let me tell you about Game Time. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you have to experience live, and this year's matchups are already delivering. If you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off, and with last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. I was just on the app, and Zone Deals were offering 10% off exclusive Zone Deals for FIFA Club World Cup matchups. I love that I could see my exact view before I buy. No surprises. The app makes it ridiculously simple. 2 taps and I'm done. And with the Game Time guarantee, you know you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, back to the question here. Would Jimmy Butler or would Kevin Durant pull a Jimmy Butler? Would he make things so ugly and so difficult for Phoenix that they are forced to trade him? Would he be willing to just sit it out until he becomes a free agent in 2026? My guess is no. That has never really been part of Kevin Durant's deal. He is a pro's pro, total professional, all these things. He's never held out, even when he's made it very clear that, even when it's been clear, I want to rephrase that, even when it's been very clear that he's unhappy, he's still gone out there and played to the best of his abilities. Everybody knew he was unhappy his last year in Golden State. They still made it to the finals. He was unhappy in Brooklyn for periods until he got traded, and he still went out there and performed, right? This is not James Harden pretending to have injuries. This is not Jimmy Butler, who is maybe more comfortable with making things around him uncomfortable than any star we've ever seen in the NBA. That's not Kevin Durant's deal. That's not his MO. That's not how he operates. He'll do his thing. He'll try to get his way. But if he has to play another year in Phoenix, he'll just play another year in Phoenix. I mean, he was uncomfortable last year after they shopped him at the trade deadline, said, look, I don't want to move in the middle of the year. I'm not going to sign off on any of these trades, and still played out the rest of the season before he was shut down at the very end of the year, and played very well towards the end of the season. So I don't see Kevin Durant doing the Jimmy Butler thing. What options would he have in order to get out of Phoenix? First of all, let's make this very clear. Phoenix was shopping Kevin Durant first. It's a little bit different than what Miami's situation was with Jimmy Butler, where the Heat were not trying to shop. The Heat did not want to trade Jimmy Butler. They wanted to deal with it this summer. If it was up to the Heat, they would have had Jimmy Butler last through the end of the last season, and we'd be talking about Jimmy Butler's future right now if the Heat had their way. But they didn't want to trade him initially, and they were forced into having to trade him. The Suns brought up all of this. The Suns were the team that said, hey, we're going to actually go ahead and trade. We're going to take trade calls on Kevin Durant in February, right before the trade deadline. Kevin Durant's like, wait, what? What's going on? You're taking trade calls on me? I thought you were trying to trade Bradley Beal. But of course, they couldn't trade Beal because of no trade clause, so they had to trade somebody, and then they started taking calls on Durant. Maybe the Suns are disappointed that the same offers that were out there in February for Durant are not the same offers now. Although I heard at the time that their asking price for Durant even then was a lot, but they reportedly had a deal in place for Golden State. Durant said, I don't want to go back there. And so the Warriors pivoted, ended up trading for Jimmy Butler, of course. So I think the Suns are just sort of new here. You've got a new general manager who probably doesn't want to get fleeced in his first major move. I can understand that. Heat fans can remember Joe Cronin. Not exactly the same thing, because Cronin was not weeks on the job. He was a year on the job at the time of dealing with Miami and the Damian Lillard stuff. But Cronin was new as a general manager and wanted to make a point, right? And he did. He did not trade Dame. He did not get strong-armed into trading Dame to Miami. I don't know that this is the same thing, because this is an inherited mess. That's pretty clear what happened here. So I don't think the same expectations are on the new Suns general manager. But I would understand if he came into that job and said, look, I can't give this guy up for nothing. Brian Gregory is his name. I can't just give up Durant for nothing. I gotta get something of value out of this. I gotta get a win. out of this somehow. And if San Antonio, Houston, and Miami, the 3 teams on Durant's list of preferred destinations, if none of them are coming to the table with anything that represents a W for Brian Gregory and the Phoenix Suns, then I understand why they are being stubborn and just waiting this out. And the more time that goes by, I guess their bet is, the more time that goes by, the more likely it is that Durant might add teams to that list, that they can drum up those offers, and that those offers, just something gets added to these offers that is worth Phoenix's while. I don't know that that's going to happen. Going back to Brian Windhorst and his reporting here, reporting that the Suns are not getting anything that they want yet for Kevin Durant. He has also added that if he were Houston, San Antonio, and Miami, if they are seriously interested in getting Kevin Durant, he wouldn't budge. He wouldn't change his offer. And I agree with him. I think the Suns are in a tough position here. They have zero leverage. They have no leverage. The Desmond Bane thing, going for 4 first-round picks, he goes for 4 first-round picks because Memphis had leverage. Desmond Bane was not for sale. And Orlando knocked on the door and said, we really want Desmond Bane. And Memphis was like, well, we're not trading him. And Orlando was like, well, what if we gave you 4 first-round picks? And Memphis was like, I guess we have to trade him. Right? It's like somebody coming to your house and it's a $700,000 home and some stranger knocks on your door and offers you $2 million for your home. You're going to turn around and say, honey, we're moving. And that's what happened with Desmond Bane. But at the same time, if you have a house that's out there for sale and you're not getting any offers for it, and it's out there at $700,000 and you're not getting any offers for it for months, then eventually you're going to have to lower your price. And that's more of where Phoenix is at. It has nothing to do with the asset. A house could be just as good as the other house. It could be the same thing. It's all about leverage. It's all about positioning. It's all about negotiation. It's all about what you can leverage in a deal. And right now, Phoenix has no leverage. Everybody knows outside that Suns organization going out of business, everything must go. You don't get customers walking in and then demanding full price for your items anymore. It's not how it works. So the Suns are going to have to. They're going to have to concede here at some point because they're going to have to move on, and they have a deadline, and that deadline is probably the NBA draft, which is around the league. Everybody knows they want something done before the draft because they want to enter the draft with potentially some picks in a position to make some moves during the draft the player they want, whatever it might be. And then a couple days after that, free agency starts, and they want to be a player. They want to have some flexibility that they're going to create with some of the cap room that they're going to be able to create in trading Kevin Durant. And there's other teams that could get involved, right? Brooklyn is involved as potentially a third team that could take on some stuff so to create more cap space for Phoenix. We've talked about how Miami doesn't even need Brooklyn because they can offer the Duncan Robinson contract, which is 50% guaranteed. Phoenix will waive it, save $10 million plus whatever the luxury tax implications are on top of that. If I'm Miami, I'm not budging. I know what my offer is. There's no Kel'el wearing it. We want Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant wants to come here. Houston, San Antonio, they don't really want this guy. Both Houston and San Antonio can beat any Heat offer. The question is, will they? And my guess is that they won't. Maybe, but would they really go out of their way? I don't know. So if I'm Miami, my offer is my offer. I don't budge. And as much as it might suck to see Kevin Durant get traded somewhere else, and as much as an L as that might be, you can't mortgage the future for a 37-year-old. You can't give up all that stuff. I don't know that you can give up Kel'el Ware. Who knows what the trade ultimately ends up being if he does indeed land in Miami. But this is a 37-year-old who's about to become a free agent who you're going to have to pay. And everybody in the league knows he's going somewhere. He's getting traded. The Suns don't have leverage here. I think a trade gets done sooner rather than later. I don't think they can go into the season with Kevin Durant under contract. They are just too expensive. So to answer the question, will Kevin Durant pull a Jimmy Butler? I don't think it ever gets to that point. Thanks for listening to our little bonus episode here. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Check out our next episode. Stay locked into your feed where David and I have our mock offseason. You're not going to want to miss that. Do we trade for Kevin Durant in our mock offseason, or do we go in a different direction? Stay tuned here. Locked on Heat. Thanks for listening.